My name is Jason Hale. I'm 35 years old, live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I work as a civil engineer. You know, the kind of guy who measures twice, cuts once, keeps his promises, and builds things that are supposed to last. Funny thing is, I thought love worked the same way. I wasn't the kind of man to play games. I've never cheated, never ghosted anyone, never made a woman feel small. I believed in building a life, brick by brick, memory by memory. And with her, I thought I was doing exactly that. But this story doesn't begin with her leaving. It begins with me sitting at my desk on a random Tuesday morning, sipping coffee, when my phone buzzed. It was a message from a mutual friend. No words, just a screenshot. It was her. My ex-fiancée, Danielle, had posted a picture of herself on a boat, champagne in hand, sun hitting just right, with a caption that read, "Glowing different when you cut off dead weight. Nail polish sparkles hashtag on to better things." I stared at it for a second. Not because it hurt. Not even because it surprised me. But because I'd already moved on, and she didn't even know it. She had no clue that just 2 weeks earlier, I had gotten down on one knee and proposed to someone else. Someone who truly saw me. Someone who didn't treat love like a contest. Danielle thought she was winning the breakup, that she left me in the dust while she soared. But what she didn't know was that I was already gone long before she left. Not physically. Emotionally. Quietly. Completely. And while she was busy posting for clout, I was building something real. Again. Because the thing about men like me, we don't post our piece. We just live it. But if you think this is just another, she cheated, I moved on, kind of story, you're wrong. Because what she did to me while we were still together, what I found out, and how I chose to respond. Let's just say, it didn't end with an Instagram caption. It ended with a ring. Just not the one she thought she'd get. I met Danielle 6 years ago. She was a junior marketing consultant at the firm my company had hired to rebrand one of our residential housing projects. I remember walking into that first meeting late, rain-soaked from inspecting a busted sewer line, and there she was, wearing this deep green blouse, hair up, eyes sharper than anyone else in the room. She didn't smile much that day, but when she presented, everyone listened, including me. We crossed paths again 2 weeks later at a networking event. She teased me about the sewer mud on my boots from the last meeting. I laughed it off. She asked if I always showed up to meetings, smelling like responsibility. That was Danielle. Quick with words. Quicker with charm. We started dating shortly after. At first, it was slow. Coffees, long walks, deep talks about everything from music to childhood trauma. I told her about my dad leaving when I was 10. She told me about hers passing away when she was 8. There was a heaviness in both of us, but when we were together, it felt lighter. Within a year, she moved into my place. A modest 2-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. Bought it after years of saving. She brought color to the walls, ideas to the kitchen, and playlists that never quite fit the mood, but somehow always worked. I'd come home from a job site sunburned and bone-tired, and there she'd be, glass of wine in hand, candles lit, asking about my day like it actually mattered. She used to call me her safe place. That phrase stuck with me. Maybe because I'd never had one myself. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't thrilling. I was consistent. Solid. The kind of man who showed up. And at the time, she made me feel like that was enough. We talked about marriage. Kids. She had dreams of opening a boutique, not just an online shop, but a real brick-and-mortar store with hardwood floors, curated shelves, and a little bell on the door. So I helped her. I dipped into my savings, helped her secure a small retail space downtown. I built her checkout counter with my own hands. Did the wiring for her lighting system. Stayed up till 3 a.m. installing a security camera system she never thanked me for. Didn't matter. I loved her. That was enough. We celebrated her grand opening with a small crowd, some friends, a few family members. She wore this yellow sundress and gave a little speech about starting from scratch with a man who believed in me first. I'll never forget that line. It felt like a promise. But looking back, it was probably a performance. Things started to shift a year or so in. Small things at first. She'd come home later, said she had to network more. She'd pick fights over nothing. She rolled her eyes when I told the same old stories, the ones she used to love hearing. She stopped touching me as much. Her phone never left her side anymore. But I pushed those thoughts down. Told myself it was stress, hormones, business stuff. That every relationship had seasons. And this was just winter. Right? Still, something in me started to ache. We'd be sitting on the couch, her scrolling, me zoning out to a game, and the silence between us felt loud. Like something sacred had been unplugged and no one wanted to admit it. One night, I was doing dishes while she was folding laundry in the bedroom. I looked down at my hands in the soapy water and just felt this wave of sadness. Not because we were fighting, but because we weren't fighting anymore. It was like she'd already left the relationship, emotionally, spiritually, and I was just holding the shell. Then she stopped saying, "I love you," back. That one hit different. She didn't even say it in anger or bitterness. Just didn't say it. I'd whisper it before bed, and she'd say, "Good night." Like the word was too heavy to carry now. Still, I stayed. I stayed because love isn't just about feeling good. It's about choosing someone even when it's hard. Even when they're distant. Even when you're afraid they're slipping away. But the truth is, love only works if both people are choosing each other. And eventually, I realized I was the only one left trying. She didn't leave all at once. She left in fragments. In shorter texts. In colder mornings. In the way she started saying, "I," instead of "we." And all the while, I kept hoping she'd come back. That one morning, she'd look at me like she used to. But she didn't. And when I finally saw the truth, when I let myself accept that the woman I loved wasn't mine anymore, I didn't get angry. Not yet. I just got quiet. The unraveling didn't happen in some big, dramatic explosion. No yelling, no slamming doors, no late-night confessions. It happened in the silence. It started with her phone, always face down, always on silent. That wasn't her before. Danielle used to laugh at TikToks and send me memes in the middle of the day. Now, she flinched when I walked past her while she was texting. Once, we were at dinner and her phone lit up. She tilted the screen away just slightly, barely noticeable. But I noticed. And once you start noticing, it's hard to stop. I didn't say anything. Just kept chewing my food, nodding along while she talked about some pop-up event she was doing for her boutique. But I could feel it. That invisible wall building brick by brick between us. She started working late more often. Inventory issues, client meetings, vendor disasters. The kind of stuff that sounded legitimate until you heard it for the fourth time in 1 week. Her wardrobe changed too. It wasn't just fashion, it was statement. Low-cut tops, tighter fits, heavier makeup. And don't get me wrong, Danielle had always taken pride in how she looked. But this was different. This felt curated for someone else's eyes. Still, I said nothing. What was I supposed to say? "Hey, are you dressing up for someone who isn't me?" I wasn't built to accuse without proof. So I watched. And I waited. We stopped having real conversations. She'd talk at me, not to me. I'd ask how her day was, and she'd shrug. "Fine." Then disappear into the bedroom with her phone, door half closed, giggling at something I couldn't hear. Once, I walked by the room and caught a glimpse of her screen in the mirror. It was a selfie, not a regular one. A pouty posed one. One she'd never taken for me. She didn't see me watching. And I didn't say a word. The nights got quieter. The bed got colder. She used to sleep curled into me. Now, she kept to the edge, phone tucked under her pillow like it held state secrets. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and find her phone still glowing. 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I never saw what she was reading. But it wasn't work emails. One night, I got up for water around 2:07 a.m. Her phone lit up again. Message preview. "He's still clueless face with tears of joy." My breath caught. I stood in the hallway staring at the soft glow of that screen like it had punched me. She didn't even hide the notification previews. Just assumed I'd never look. And she was right. Until now. But still, I didn't confront her. That's what most people don't understand. Sometimes when you love someone deeply, when you built years with them, betrayal doesn't make you explode. It makes you observe. It sharpens your eyes, slows your breathing, makes your heart beat steady like you're preparing for surgery or war. I started paying attention to the names that kept popping up in her life. A business coach named Marcus. A supplier named Trey. A couple of photographers who seemed a little too flirty in her comment section. I checked her boutique's business Instagram account one evening. Scrolled through tagged photos. And there he was, Marcus. Lean, tatted, trendy buzzcut, commenting under every third post with fire emojis. One video showed them laughing while loading clothes into a trunk. He touched her back like it was normal. Like it was his. Still, no confrontation. Instead, I took screenshots. Quietly started backing up old text threads. Collected digital receipts, usernames, anything that might matter. Because somewhere in my gut, I knew this wasn't just about betrayal. This was about closure. Proof. Justice. And the man I am? I don't scream. I document. Her energy shifted more aggressively the next week. She was short with me. Snapped over little things. Criticized how I folded towels. Asked if I was feeling depressed because I wasn't talking as much. That one almost made me laugh. She could sense it. The distance. But she thought it was emotional exhaustion. What she didn't realize was that I was waking up and planning. One evening, she came home late, reeking of a cologne I didn't wear. Said she'd been in a pop-up dinner with other businesswomen. Then asked if I could sleep in the guest room because she had a migraine. I just nodded. Didn't argue. Didn't blink. Just picked up my pillow and walked down the hall. Closed the door behind me and exhaled for the first time in hours. I sat on the guest bed, in the dark, and stared at nothing for a long time. Then I picked up my phone and messaged her. The woman I'd met 3 months ago at my sister's engagement party. The woman I hadn't pursued out of respect, but who had left a mark on me just the same. I sent 5 words. "You were right about her." Her reply came back 2 minutes later. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? And in that moment, I realized something. Danielle hadn't just lost me. She had replaced herself. A few days after that late-night text exchange, I made up my mind. I needed clarity, not assumptions, not hunches. Real, undeniable truth. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I pretended to be out of town for a job site visit. Told Danielle I had to leave early Friday morning for a weekend site inspection 2 hours away. She barely looked up from her phone. Cool? Drive safe, she muttered, flipping through her boutique's inventory app. I packed a small overnight bag, kissed her on the cheek, and walked out the front door. Then I drove 3 blocks, parked my truck, and walked back. She never saw me watching. From across the street, behind a neighbor's hedge, I waited. She wasn't even subtle. Marcus pulled into the driveway 2 hours later. Same guy from the boutique Instagram. White BMW. Loud music. He honked twice, and she walked out like she'd been waiting by the door. She was dressed like she wasn't going anywhere near a boutique. Tight black dress. Heels. Hair done. A smirk I hadn't seen in years. They hugged like lovers. Kissed like teenagers. Drove off like nothing mattered. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. I had everything I needed, right there in my phone. Photos. Timestamps. License plate. Proof. I sat alone in my car for over an hour after they left. Not crying. Not raging. Just still. The kind of stillness you feel when something inside you dies, and something colder replaces it. That night, I returned home quietly. She didn't even come back until the next morning. Told me her pop-up event had run late, and she crashed at her friend Trina's place. I smiled. Asked how it went. She gave some vague answer. I nodded and handed her coffee like nothing happened. Because now I had a new mission. Not to hurt her, but to protect my peace. To take back my power. And to make sure that when I left, it would be the last time I ever looked back. That was the moment I knew. She wasn't mine anymore, and the woman I loved? She didn't exist. Maybe she never did. But me? I wasn't broken. I was becoming something new. Not bitter. Not cruel. Just clear. That night, as she scrolled beside me in bed, laughing softly into her screen, I stared at the ceiling and made a vow. You will never see me coming. They say betrayal teaches you 2 things. Who the other person truly is, and who you've been all along. After that night, after I saw her leave with him, lie to my face, and laugh beside me in bed like nothing had happened, I stopped loving Danielle. But I didn't stop planning. I didn't want revenge in the way most people do. I didn't want to scream or expose her on social media. That wasn't my style. That wasn't my win. My victory would be in freedom. In dignity. In watching her discover, far too late, what she threw away. So I started moving silently. First, the paper trail. Danielle and I weren't married, but we shared a few things legally, one of them being partial business investment in her boutique. My name wasn't on the branding. But the LLC? Yeah, that was mine. I'd helped her register the company when we first opened it. She never cared about the paperwork, so I did it all. Kept quiet about it. Handled the taxes. The vendor contracts. The permits. I knew one day she might need that stability. I never thought I'd need it for leverage. So I pulled up all the documents. Backed up everything to an encrypted drive. Bank statements, profit margins, shared receipts for inventory I'd paid for. Even the original lease, which, fun fact, was in my name too. One phone call to the landlord, and boom, she was now subletting under my terms. I didn't act yet. I just documented. Second, emotional exit plan. I didn't want a messy confrontation. What I wanted was distance with closure. So I started pulling away slowly, in ways she wouldn't detect. I stopped making dinner, started working out late, left my phone face up just to let her wonder what I was doing. I knew it was messing with her. The more quiet I got, the more curious she became. She started asking things like, "You've been quiet lately. Everything okay?" And I'd just smile and say, "Yeah, just thinking about the future," which wasn't a lie. I also started spending more time with Sophie. That's the woman I'd met at my sister's engagement party. We'd stayed in touch, but always respectfully. Now, with Danielle already emotionally checked out, I allowed myself to finally be honest. Sophie was everything Danielle wasn't. Warm, curious, genuinely kind. She asked me about my day and actually listened. She remembered little details I didn't even think mattered. She never flirted, never pushed, just existed like a safe harbor. One night, we grabbed coffee after work. 2 hours passed like 20 minutes. When I dropped her off, she smiled and said, "I don't know what she's looking for, but I know what she lost." I drove home that night, sat in the driveway for 15 minutes, and just breathed. Not out of guilt, but peace. Danielle never realized how much of her boutique still flowed through my accounts. The credit card she used? My business card. The Shopify POS system? Set up under my merchant account. Quietly, I started separating everything. Revoked her admin access to the tax backend. Changed passwords. Transferred all receipts and business conversations to my personal archive. Called my bank, created alerts for large purchases, and began forwarding them to a private email. I even made an appointment with my accountant and explained everything. He said, "You're being smart." I wasn't trying to destroy her. I just wanted to make sure when this fell apart, it didn't land on me. Then I sent her a calm text the next day. "Hey, I think we should talk this weekend. Just about the future." She didn't reply for 5 hours. When she did, she just said, "Sure. Everything okay?" I replied, "Yeah. Just preparing for the next chapter." What she didn't know was that I'd already bought a ring. Just not for her. Sophie didn't know either. But deep down, I did. Danielle had always bragged about how she'd be married by 30. That she'd walk down the aisle in a designer gown and post it like some curated movie scene. I used to imagine being that man. Now, the thought of it made me physically ill. One day, while Danielle was in the shower, I opened her phone, not because I was desperate, but because I already knew what I'd find. She didn't even bother deleting the photos anymore. There he was. Marcus. Shirtless selfie in her camera roll. Voice notes about that night and how he loved her laugh. A TikTok draft of them lip-syncing in bed. She never posted it, but she saved it. And right below it, a Pinterest board titled, "Plan B, the real wedding." That one actually made me laugh out loud. Plan B? She had no idea. She was mine to walk away from, not the other way around. Final move. I set the meeting for Saturday. Mid-afternoon. No distractions. She walked into the living room, messy bun, holding iced coffee, looking tired and smug at the same time. I sat her down and said simply, "I know about Marcus. And the others. I've known for a while." She froze. Her eyes darted. Face turned pale. But I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just kept speaking. I'm not angry anymore. Just done. I've already removed my name from everything. You'll have 30 days to vacate the property. And as for your boutique, it'll stay in your name now, all yours, including the debt. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I stood up, handed her an envelope. Inside, copies of every legal document, a formal notice, and a handwritten note. No hard feelings, just lessons. And then I walked out, straight to my truck, straight to a new life. The day I walked out that door was the day Danielle's house of cards started to fall. And the best part? I didn't have to lift a single finger to destroy it. Because when someone builds their life on lies, all you have to do is remove your silence. I moved in with my cousin temporarily, just until things settled. Sophie didn't know I was staying with family. She just knew I needed space, and she gave it willingly. No questions, just presence. Meanwhile, back at the house, Danielle was unraveling. She called. I didn't answer. She texted. I didn't reply. She emailed, messaged me on Facebook, left voicemails pretending to be worried about me, all while still liking Marcus's gym selfies. I let her spiral. A week later, she received the formal business exit documents from my lawyer. No threats. No lawsuits. Just hard facts. My name removed from everything I once built. Every dollar accounted for. Tax filings logged and closed. Business credit card shut down. Shopify payment processor unlinked. Boutique lease transferred. Rent now double without my cosigner. That wasn't revenge. That was accountability. And then came the real moment, the courtroom scene. You see, Danielle wasn't careful. Remember all those boutique receipts? Those business dinners and vendor trips? Well, turns out using my business credit card to fund her personal vacation with Marcus, not just betrayal. It was fraud. My accountant flagged it the moment I showed him the charges. We filed a small claims case. Nothing dramatic, just enough to trigger a court date and have her explain under oath what those expenses were. The day of the hearing, she walked in wearing all white, like some TikTok influencer ready to play innocent. I showed up in a gray suit. Calm. Collected. Cold. Her face dropped the moment she saw me with a folder full of receipts and a lawyer by my side. We didn't ask for jail time. We didn't even ask for full repayment. Just public acknowledgement. Just truth. And when the judge asked her to clarify the $2,140 charge to a Miami hotel room labeled vendor strategy session, I passed forward the Instagram screenshot of Marcus, shirtless, holding champagne, geotagged to the same hotel suite, same date. The courtroom went silent. The judge asked her if she had anything to say. She just stared at her lap. I leaned forward and said, loud enough for the room to hear, "She lied to me for months. She used my money to cheat. I don't want revenge. I want distance." The judge nodded, ruled in my favor, garnished her boutique profits to repay the debt, froze an account till repayment, legal ownership transferred. In 5 minutes, the business she built off my back was no longer hers. But that's not where it ended. 2 weeks later, she messaged me again. No. Hey. No apology. Just, "I've been thinking a lot. I messed up. I miss you." I stared at that message for a long time. Then typed back, "I'm engaged." That's all. She didn't reply. The real revenge. I proposed to Sophie in a park she once told me was her childhood favorite. No big crowd. No cameras. Just her, me, and the kind of peace I never knew was possible. She cried. I smiled. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was home again. Word got around fast. Mutual friends started sharing the news on LinkedIn and Instagram. Danielle didn't comment, but I know she saw it. Because one day I got an anonymous message from a burner account. It should have been me. And that was all I ever needed to hear. Closure delivered. One last time, I drove past the old boutique. It was closed. Windows boarded up. A for lease sign in the window. Yelp reviews had tanked. Google listing gone. Instagram account deleted. She tried to rebrand under a new name a few months later. It flopped. You can't sell authenticity when your life was built on lies. It's been over a year now. Sometimes, I still pass by the places where memories used to live. That little Mexican restaurant we used to love. The park where she once said, I could see myself marrying you here. The empty boutique space, windows dusty now. No more candles in the window or fake smiles behind the register. But I don't stop. Because I'm not angry anymore. I'm not even sad. I'm just clear. I live in a smaller house now, one I picked out with Sophie. Nothing fancy, but it's ours. Hardwood floors, sun through the windows in the morning, coffee brewed before I'm even out of bed. She does that, not because I ask, but because she cares. It's the little things, like how she touches my arm when I'm quiet for too long. Or how she'll ask, what kind of piece do you need today? With Danielle, I felt like I was constantly auditioning. With Sophie, I feel like I already have the part. We got married last fall. Small ceremony. My sister officiated. Sophie wore a dress her grandmother had sewn decades ago, and still looked like a miracle. No Instagram photos. No flashy captions. Just love. And she moved to Atlanta. Tried to start over under a different boutique name. Didn't last long. You can't outrun yourself forever. Last I heard, she was selling digital courses on branding for women in business. Funny. Her biggest brand was always fiction. But I don't say that with bitterness. Honestly, I hope she finds peace. I hope she learns what real love feels like. I hope she figures out who she is without needing to lie about it. But me? I stopped hoping for her the day I stopped explaining myself. Love doesn't die all at once. It dies in glances, in silence, in the moments you no longer feel seen. But healing? Healing comes fast the moment you stop chasing people who've already left you in their hearts. I thought loving her made me strong. But letting go of her? That made me invincible. She bragged about moving on. Told the world she was glowing, free, finally happy. What she didn't know, I had already moved on. Not with flash. Not with noise. But with intention. And while she was chasing attention, I was building a life. With someone who didn't need to be impressed, just loved. She took everything, except my soul. And from that, I rebuilt everything. Not for her. Not for revenge. But for me.